foundations that the building whelps itself. You know, it's a sort of it sort of comes out on paper, and we're going to see it as sort of a proof, right? A limit or a proof, and I'm concerned about that. I like this notion that you have to leave your own imprint on it. You know, for example, I was reacting. You know, as an architect, I would react to those plateaus that you talk about 2 or 3 times in your projects as opportunities for envelope expression, structural framing, articulation, or a reconciliation of structure, program separation, skin decisions. Those are sort of architectural things that we would get a rise out of in terms of our engagement. Philip's talking about sort of setting up the terms of engagement for this project as you move into, you know, the next step. I was very interested in this vertical rainwater harvesting notion. How does that work, really?
Tourism piece.
Like, what's the gutter look like?
We're used to tourism.
Yeah, where did that come from? That was
conveyance through the building. There's a whole project right there has to do with zero energy and conveyance.
Yeah. So there's places where I think you can enter into this project that can animate it, because it is otherwise sort of dry and pedantic, discursive thing.
In some way, I really enjoy the research. Like, I think if you were making a presentation about the Skyscraper project, and then sort of at the end of the presentation, you're able to get into this mode where you say, you know, I've discovered the sweet spot between the sort of ratio between land value and the economic viability of a certain height. That also corresponds with the sweet spot between the level of density and the capacity to generate energy with wind and drop of the rain from the roof. Then that would be, you could blow people away with that. I mean,
that project
the
can
quality of that
many
research
different cities
is really potentially compelling. But right now, the only thing, and it's like there isn't the building, there's no attitude about urban design, there's no attitude about the site. I mean, this is a phenomenal piece of real estate, right? You're at that corridor, the river becomes the corridor that is your view out to the lake. And, I mean, it's a phenomenal space. And I have some small comments about the sort of charts and graphs and things that I think are missing. But I will mention those in a minute. But I'm almost hesitant to mention them because that's the thing that I think is killing you right now, is that you're assuming that if you do more research and really refine numbers, somehow the building is going to emerge out of that process magically. I would run away from all that right now and say this is an urban design problem. It's a question about how a very large building, we don't know exactly how large, occupies such an incredible site. What happened at the ground, where presumably thousands of people are entering and leaving the building in, you know, big waves at the beginning and end of the day, and much smaller scale movement through the building than at other parts of the day. You know, a lot of really interesting things to chew on as a piece of architecture. I think that research can come back in play to help sort of put an exclamation point on the project, but I don't think it's going to get you anywhere right now. I think you've got to run away from all this stuff. So I will mention a few things. I do think you have to have comparable, at least back of the envelope, estimation of the value of the property, how many floors you can build, what's the rent you need to generate per floor, just to have a sense of economic chart that is equally powerful potentially in determining the viability of the project. I also think you have to pay attention to much more potential structure. That's the number one question when you're building a building. And you're treating the structure as sort of irrelevant. Well, I could have 40 floors, and I guess this much more wind. Well, yeah, but believe me, there are plateaus and sweet spots where if you add another 20 floors, it's not just that amount of square footage that you used to add to the project. You totally changed the nature of the foundation, etc. And you know, it's not just a per square foot cost and you keep adding floors. So there has to be a structural diagram that talks about those sweet spots. In terms of your analysis of energy, you've got, the third thing is you've got to overlay wind, rain, and sun on a month-by-month basis. Because you know that all three of those vary, of course they vary daily, but if you're going to be able to convince us that the building can actually sustain itself, you have to prove to me that it can do so every month of the year based on rainwater is good now, but sun's not as much, and wind is X, Y, Z. So you've got to overlay. And so those three pieces of analysis, I think, are still missing. But don't do those analyses now. You need to like make a big-ass model of the site and start playing around with study models and think about the architecture of the street. And otherwise, I think you're never going to arrive at that.
Thank you. Just a brief time. I'm going to switch tapes so I can make sure that we get all the conversation.
Well, should I say this again? I can't overemphasize the idea that you deal with energy, and maybe even water is more part of the energy thing of building. Because otherwise, all the other variables are just so extreme that you'll suspend decision making completely. Yet I think doing the energy, I've never seen a skyscraper design done for energy generation that supports X number of occupants and X number of square feet before in a building design. So I think that's an innovative and very focused approach. And then all the attendant things that come with that energy. I think the structure of a high-rise is probably the single most important thing. It doesn't exist without a highly refined, performative structure. It's not just the parts that are unique to every situation. I don't even know if I would, if I don't disagree with the comment, but I don't know if I support a kind of urbanist point of view, because I think it's not germane to your thesis. You know, the building should beat the ground and you should want to get in and out, but that's a whole other line of study that you have not even engaged yet at all. And quite frankly, I look at Mises Towers. Those weren't remarkable works of urbanism per se. They just responded to a few simple urban conditions, and then it was all about defining the building itself in a responsible way. And I think it's just, don't want to add more red herrings to this. I think you just want to get to one fish you're going to work with. Fish and its skeleton.
Well, and I'd like to just kind of touch on something, or sort of encapsulate something. You know, maybe I can get it right, maybe I'll get it wrong, but as a means of kind of framing where Marx is at. You know, we've had sort of a number of conversations. There's been a number of sort of sub-directions, and it's all kind of started from, and if I go straight, I've been straightening out. But it started with this idea of, you know, how does the skyscraper, the tall building, really sort of earn its keep? How does it make itself valid within contemporary urbanism? You know, the idea of does the building get back? And Mark had in some of his earliest writing and discussion, he had this wonderful story that he wrote about the idea of, you know, as a, you know, another blackout in New York, the idea that there could be one building that could sustain itself through that and become sort of a hub of urgency response and sort of central command for the city, which would sort of led into that discussion of, well, can a skyscraper do this? Can a skyscraper be self-sufficient? And we, you know, the three of us, you know, have talked to Mark and tried to encourage him actually to kind of push this idea of understanding the metrics of the building. And really to say, okay, let's get to the point of if the building's going to be, for lack of a better phrase, off the grid, so to speak, what does it take? And knowing, you know, that there were going to be complications with the economics, but wanted to, you know, encouraged him, okay, so, okay, if you really are going to say this, what is the end result of that? Which is, you know, the direction that Mark's research has gone and kind of led us to where we are now. And, you know, so I guess the question that, you know, I throw out to everybody is, so where Mark is now, you know, how does he, you know, what are the best opportunities for him to really isolate a thesis-worthy shade to this? Because if it just comes down to, you know, creating a skyscraper, you know, kind of a Bolo sort of response, then he hasn't really gotten value of his research. But it may be that the research, you know, has gone in too many directions, and, you know, you've basically proven, you should say, that, you know, you're not going to make net zero. At least not make it economically viable as a piece of real estate while you do that. So where do you all think his strengths are right now to find that really captivating idea to focus on that will help him drive his building design?
I think it is the energy piece. I mean, I wouldn't want to give up on the role of the project in an urban landscape altogether. It's maybe late game for that to be a meaningful exploration. So I tend to agree with that, except I wouldn't want to fully give up on that. But I would say, I think energy piece is really key, and that's the only category where I would even use the term net zero. If you've been, I don't know if you've really done enough research, at least this afternoon, I have the impression maybe you haven't done enough to demonstrate that this building can be supported by quantity of living machine infrastructure that means there's no hoop leaving the site. And particularly if you fill more floors up with occupancy as opposed to forming. I think that would be the case. I think energy is really the sweet spot here. And I think you could probably get to a point where you show that you are in fact generating excess energy, which then be talked about as a means of supporting other buildings on adjacent sites that may be programmatically, spatially, formally, you don't want every building to be whatever it is, 80 stories, 100 stories. And there could be an idea about how, in a way, the building becomes the windmill for the community. Becomes the thing which provides more energy than it needs, because that seems to be the thing that really is working best for you. And perhaps you're then able to talk about how, I mean, you could even put a social justice spin on it and say there's a building off to the side at a smaller scale, which does good things urbanistically, and made it become some kind of a program that can't support itself economically given the price of land in downtown Chicago. But because you're able to supply more energy than you need, put it into this product. I mean, just as a kind of metaphor, a way to suggest that energy becomes a different kind of driver for the project. So that's the thing that I would focus on.
I'd like to just make a comment that we have definitely looked at, I guess, expression urbanism on that level. But again, traditionally the skyscraper has been this iconic star in a city, and it's been mostly about consuming and not giving back, but giving back on a very sort of thin glimmer level, instead of deep tissue infrastructure level. So if this bespoke kind of could actually work out where you can create some kind of robust relationship back out, then that would be, I think, a pretty good definition of way to cite this logically in urban setting and create a sense of different kind of network possibly. The farming, we talk about this only as it really supports the primary thesis, and I think that's what we're certainly will. Because from my standpoint, it's a lovely idea of it, but I think still inputs the water. I mean, just the intensity of when harvesting and teeing stuff on them, it really takes a toll, and this is really unclear again how it works out, propagating, and yeah. So water, I think, is always the key, and this definitely came up in our meeting. Water, potable water, is always going to be the thing that limits you. Whereas if energy seems to have many more available sources they can grab on. So potable water can't make water unless you learn how to crack molecules right at some point. Right there.
I've got a question for the community. Is there a reason that there's been so much emphasis on sort of the practical, pragmatic realities of capturing energy? Today we talk a lot about economics. I don't know if it's been emphasized by the community, but I sort of feel like in some ways Mark's been shackled by trying to prove that he's competent to be able to make a particular case with regard to net-0 skyscrapers. Has that been an emphasis of the community?
Well, I think
There's just nothing radical in anything that you're talking about.
Well, and I think to us the radical part of it was we went to the point in discussions with Mark where when he started to say, look, I can maybe get, using sort of conventional things, assuming a building of this size, I can hitting a mark of 25% self-sufficiency is considered to be a high goal, and I think that came from your conversation with Gensler. And but then that as we started to have the discussion, and Mark did acknowledge there's that issue of somebody wants to invest in a building and build it, they're going to want to get this kind of economic return. And so from our perspective, the radical part of it was if Mark pursued that idea to say, look, if you're going to say the building's going to be self-sufficient resource-wise, what does it take to do that? In some ways, kind of pulling cloak away. They look, there's a lot of lip service paid to this now, but the idea is that if you really want this thing to earn its own keep, it may only be 25% occupied. Everything else may insist. And say that this is what it really takes to do that.
The strategies he's proposed are very conventional strategies. I didn't see anything that started to push the envelope when it came to technologies that were available. And maybe he's trying to stay within a certain boundary in that regard. But biomimicry, for instance, I think offers a tremendous amount of potential. It's a lot of it certainly at the research level right now, but for generating energy in systems that we use, material we use for buildings. Is there any talk about maybe pushing that a little bit further?
Well, I think part of his writing right now is reflecting the experience of management plan where we used to like failures. And so that's where you begin. So the thing is, if he were to feel comfortable with going driving his design in a more speculative direction, to the point where he's actually incorporating highly speculative technologies, I guess that's the thing. This would be advantage, right? We talk about like nano, like second or floor, does that generate current? And so the more people have in a building, proximity to a faucet, generates current.
Well, somebody brought up Evolve, and that's sort of got thinking.
Well, and I think that we have really talked about the fact that evolution of being devices should be really digging in that. I think we're taking a really serious crack at this. So the reality aspect is tough. I mean, do you look at economics?
I don't have any problem taking sort of dumb technology. Personally, I like that. And because it's not, to me, it's part of the mandate of the designer, right? That we are taking things that we find in the world, and by how we arrange them, how we synthesize those things to produce something unexpected, significant. What would Mason tell you to do now that you have all this knowledge?
Right,
Synthesize.
Yeah, exactly.
We haven't done. So you take a dome water system, and a dome heat system, and a dome wind system, and a dome occupancy system, and you put them together so they're not dome anymore.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what you
It's
need to do.
it's that simple, it's that profound, and you're talking about shackling. That's incredible freedom to look at the simple things and figure out how they work together. That's why the overlaid section is like a physical act that starts you in the process of synthesizing. And again, I have not seen a skyscraper that's, 1/3 wind generating, 50% water generating.
Right.
Oh, so I've never seen it before, so that's incredible freedom
Right.
that you have as a designer and researcher to go into uncharted territory.
Simple example, right? The water collecting surface is angled to such a degree because it maximizes the amount of collection, has a greater surface area, blah, blah, blah. It also happens to be perfect for the solar angle. Yeah. Those two things also engage each other. Yeah. Right? That's a simple, small stuff. What I'd like to see is, well, I want you to take a position, period, right? Pick one of these things. What matters? Right? Or pick 2 or 3 of these things, but then it's how they associate with each other. Think about how you occupy the building. I mean, it's a simple thing with the farm. I mean, jump off your point with the farm. Where's the deep research about growing things? Can we put a living machine in with a vertical farm system? If we're going to do farms, how do we reduce the footprint of farm to 10% while increasing the yield by 100%? That's not your project. That's where it could have gone, but that's not your project, so you abandon all that stuff.
Yep.
Personally, I could care less if it was a minimum, because I actually don't think that was in the project.
Right.
I think what you have done, synthesis and morphology. You have been a designer. And I mean, I'm the first one to sneer a little bit involved, but it's only because you know what? All those projects are thoughtful. They're all taken on either a social condition or a technological condition and push it to its limits to see what happens with fall composition. And there's usually several, and they're smart projects. When you go through, 06, what is that? It's like 8 years of those now. And then they get smarter as they go along because competitions get harder and harder. And they're all, not a lot of them are viable. They're definitely challenging what it's done, and some of them take on the economics. I absolutely don't believe you cannot ignore. You have a skyscraper that's 25% occupied, and you want to, but this is where it comes into maybe Steve's point. You want to work with real systems. If you want to work with real systems, like things that exist in the world right now, in the context that we work in right now, then you can't ignore this. You can't ignore the fact that your occupancy is they would never get built, we would get financed, right? If you want to talk about much larger vision, that's talking about distribution of wealth and all the rest of it, that's a different project. So I think we really just need to focus. I think you need to stop thinking in silos, start putting these things together, and I think you need to drop scale. I really think you need to drop scale. I think you need to start designing a little tiny piece of it and see what happens. I mean, how many floors? I just want to know how many floors it is. I want to know what shape it is. I want to know why shape is like that. I want to know if this thing bends because it has something to do with picking up a collection surface, has something to do with a wind, a moment of wind acceleration. Those two things, both water and wind at the same time. And then there's a series of perforation on a wall that are shaped a certain way because the wind rips through. There's micro turbines in there that just happens to be the certain width for an office that allows you to get windows on every single wall. Right? What's it doing? 5 things at once. 1 + 1 = 3.
11.
Very first principle of design. 1 + 1 = 3.
11.
Yeah, our week is to 11.
I think this is really important as well. I mean, I think given the sort of framework of the project, that's probably the most important gap. I would just say one other thing about the overall premise of the project. I think the thing that's getting you in trouble in a way is the term self-efficiency, which isn't necessarily the same as net zero, but I also personally think when the phrase net zero is somewhat problematic. I think the better question is what can the project give back? And I think just as a kind of general observation, this is part of I think a predisposition that I have relative to the whole conversation about net zero and is efficient enough? Can we get to a point where there's 0 inputs and 0 outputs? And I think it goes back to the question maybe, but about scale, and it's probably not the scale of an individual building image that makes sense. And so one concern I have is that after the conversation, you may have a reflex to want to say the one thing I want to hang on to is the project has to be self-sufficient. So I just want to come back to that because I would say that is not the metric that I think is going to allow you to get to a condition of synthesis. I think you've got to recognize that given what the research has borne out so far, that energy is the place where you have something to give back. And water and sort of conceptual footprint of farming that's represented by a number of occupants is not, it's just not in your wheelhouse. And so I just want to encourage you to forget about the concept of net zero in all categories. Forget about the